So this is the iPhone XR, an iPhone that launched in 2018, but it's now 2020, and I'm wondering, with this being the best-selling iPhone through all the quarters of 2019, should you buy the XR right now? Considering its price point is pretty low, we have an iPhone SE 2 on the horizon, but still some zingy colors, a very boss CPU in here in the A12 Bionic. We'll begin with the body. An aluminum frame goes all the way around the XR with a glass back. Now the 11 Pros get a frosted glass back, but because we put a case on our phones quite often, besides the initial phase when you first get the phone, you're not going to notice this too much, as you'll probably keep this phone protected. Now the bezels are a little bit thicker for XR, but here in 2020, it's not like there's other phones that don't have thicker bezels than this, so it's still a pretty nice design for the iPhone XR, although the notch is still there. That might be gone with the iPhone 12. The iPhone XR has some very tactile buttons set up, and it does integrate the Siri within a larger button than older phones like the iPhone 7 or iPhone 8. You can see the SIM card tray at the bottom, antenna lines on both the top and bottom, both sides. At the bottom of the phone, you can see we have the speaker grill and also lightning port with those screws a little bit off-centered. I never really liked that look for the XR, but you're not really going to look at that often. A 6.1-inch liquid retina display dominates the front. That's a little bit higher than 720p. It's like 828p. Overall, I think the body and the XR is still a very simple, classy look. I really do like the look of this phone, even though it's now 2020. You could see why it's still sold very well. Let's talk a little bit more about the display. It's a big concern. It always has been for the XR, but it doesn't stop people from buying this phone because it still has many features like dark mode, night shift, true tone. It's still very bright for an LCD display, and I think overall you're not really going to be disappointed in what Apple did offer up here with this panel, due to the fact that it has very good viewing angles and the text is pretty sharp if you're looking at it from a distance. But if you are comparing it side by side with a phone with a much higher resolution, it's pretty easy to see those differences. But most people say they don't even really care about this. They think it's overhyped. For me, I do like the better OLED displays, but again, I'm a techie and you might not be somebody who really cares too much about that. Video performance, pretty good. In YouTube, you can watch 1080p videos. I've even seen some in 4K that look pretty good, even if I have to watch in a lower resolution. You do have to pinch out a little bit due to the aspect ratio. On the whole, the display, I don't think is a big problem, considering you're going to get this at a more budget price point now. But talking about software, iOS 13.3 is on board here. Apple brought new services like Apple TV, as well as the improved music application. In addition to that, you do have the news application with News Plus and all that. So yeah, iOS is getting a little bit more services, a little bit more refined in terms of its feature set, but the core experience overall to iOS, its feature set, how it operates, hasn't really changed much. So if you are a Apple fan and you are an iOS fan, there's nothing really to be disappointed about with the XR. It's going to perform pretty similar to any phone that costs twice its price, like the iPhone 11 Pro or iPhone 11 Pro Max. Now, talking about the iPhone XR storage, it kind of tops out here at 256 gigs, which is plenty considering how efficient the storage is on the iPhone. You're probably going to get this phone in 64 if you're looking for the best price. Now, this does have 3 gigabytes of RAM, which performs more similar to like a 6 gigs of RAM Android phone. So not really a problem here. iOS does a good job of tricking you into thinking that every application's still open, even though it pauses and has to reload those apps. You really don't notice it too much, so I'm not going to call that a problem. The camera, 12 megapixel single camera, 4K 60p recording, 7 megapixel front facing camera, and it also does pretty good recording. The photos turn out very good. Yes, you're not getting deep fusion, you're not getting the night mode, but there's applications you can buy in the App Store that can give you things like a night mode or things like the ability to blur the objects in the background on portrait, which doesn't come in the default camera for the iPhone XR. The photo results turn out fantastic, and I think for the user this phone is targeted towards, or the person who wants to buy this on the low, this is a fantastic camera. I can make the same video you're watching right now, which was being recorded on the 11 Pro Max on the XR, and you probably wouldn't notice too much of a difference. Those cameras are really good. Now, in terms of the audio performance, have a listen.
These are some of the best offerings you can get. Also, if you use applications like Filmic Pro or others, you can get really top-notch video for these phones. And every time you press the record button, you don't even have to be a pro to get some stunning results.
So yeah, in 2020, stereo speakers have become the norm. They're pretty good here for 10R as well. Now, moving on, I want to talk a little bit about the battery life, something that's always been one of the 10R's strong suits, and Apple even promoted this in its own commercial in the past. Yes, it's still very strong. I have a maximum capacity right now of like 96%, running a little bit under that 100, but it still performs like it didn't lose any of its capacity. So very good performance in battery. You have to worry not at all about the battery. Actually, I think this is one of the best things you're going to love about the 10R when you get it. Moving on to the phone call quality and also reception. Well, what is it like for the iPhone 10R? I got to say that I didn't like this phone the best for reception and phone call quality. I found myself having a little bit lower bars than I would like on the day-to-day, but it's still better than average, and I don't think it was ever a deal breaker. It's just something that wasn't the best for this phone. Now, we do have resale values right now that are kind of going right around the price Apple's selling this phone for, so holding on pretty strong. And I think the 10R has already took its major hit on the loss you're going to get on this investment. So going forward, it's going to creep down, but I think it'll hold its value pretty well even for another year or two for the 10R, just due to how good the CPU in this phone is, iOS being a very popular software, the Apple logo on the back of this phone. Anytime you have an iPhone, it's going to raise in value and resale value because people desire iPhones. It's a very popular product. So thumbs up if you guys enjoyed this video. I want to know, are you buying a 10R? And if you have any questions, let me know down below because I'm going to be covering this phone more throughout 2020. And I will catch you all in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to be well. Happy New Year. Peace.